Hey folks, this is Gray here, and today we're going to be cooking with Keystone Meats and one of my go-to recipes, which is the Campfire pork and beans skillet. All right, so this has been a video that's been asked about, or a series of videos that's been asked about a lot in regards to Keystone Meats and certain types of recipes that you can use them for. Now, in this recipe, you can technically be in a SHTF scenario and use all the ingredients in here, be it what you have in your pantry. All right, so let's go over the recipe itself, and I will have the recipe linked down in the description. And if you need, you can always substitute things in and out depending on what you like and what you don't like, but you can kind of get an idea of how to cook some things with Keystone. So for this recipe specifically, I'll be using a can of the 28-ounce pork for the foundation of the recipe itself. And then you're going to need a cup of bacon, cooked and chopped, of course. You're going to need 2 cans of baked beans, roughly about the 15-ounce size. I usually use about a cup of chopped onions as well, and a cup of barbecue sauce. You choose the sauce. I'm going to be using Sweet Baby Ray's in this one just because that's my favorite barbecue sauce. And a can of refrigerated biscuits, like the little biscuits in there, 8 of them. So when you look at go to your grocery aisle and you buy biscuits, unless you want to make the biscuits, yourself, that's great. I'm just trying to speed things along, so I'm kind of using this recipe specifically for a quick and easy meal for you guys. Anyway, so at least 8 biscuits, a decent size. I usually get the larger sizes just so it spreads out evenly. And I'm going to be using a cast iron skillet. All right, so that's going to be the foundation of this thing. And again, like I said, you can always play with these recipes and see what works best for you. So in order to kind of speed this video along, I'm going to take some shortcuts. And it's basically the same recipe, but just makes things a lot faster, quicker, and easier, depending on what you're trying to do. So for the cooked bacon and the onions, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be using 2 of these. I think these are 16 ounce, but close enough to the 15 ounce. These are the Bush's Best Onion, Saucy Perfection with bacon, with brown sugar, bacon, and sweet diced onions. So this has the onions and bacon already in there, and it has a sweet sauce in there. But I'm still going to use the Sweet Baby Ray's because I like to add a little bit of that flair to it. So you can kind of decide if you want to add in there. You can watch specifically what I'm doing. But like I said, hopefully this will give you guys an idea of what to cook. And in regards to the biscuits, I've already opened the can up. I can kind of show you. I got them laying on some parchment paper right here. But they're an 8 count. I think they're Pillsbury flaky biscuits, and that's what I'm going to be using for this recipe. So you can follow exactly what I'm doing here and use the things I am, but I will put the exact recipe down in the description for the folks that want to do everything kind of from scratch, All right, so first what we're going to do is, of course, open up our cans, make sure we have our measuring cups, our can openers, and everything we need for this recipe. We'll start with our can of beans. And again, like I said, you can cook the bacon and you can chop the onions and you can do all that. But this is definitely going to speed things along a lot more quickly than doing everything by hand. It's just kind of like for a quick and easy meal. All right, so now we got those 2 cans of beans open. You can kind of see that bacon and other things floating around in there, some fat and whatnot. And there's 2 cans of beans. Let's go ahead and open up the pork by Keystone and take a look at that. Now, regardless how some of the alterations that I make in this recipe, you can use everything. If you want to use beans out of the garden and do your own beans, you want to pull some onions out of the garden as well. You want to make your own bread. All those things are possible when making this recipe from scratch if you were in a true survival scenario and using this for survival. But being that we're in the times we have this opportunity to kind of do the things that we're doing. So as you can see there, that's what the pork looks like. Again, it's just pork and sea salt. You can see the fat on there. And then you'll see as we break it down into the skillet itself. All right, so if you're following the directions specifically down that I have in the descriptions in regards to this recipe, of course, now what you're going to do after cooking the bacon and having your onions and everything chopped is we're going to start adding this thing in this preheated skillet. And kind of explain that, what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to put the pork in there first. Some people may drain it. I don't. And I use the juices that were in the pork to kind of give everything a little bit of flavor. So I'm going to go ahead and break this down so that you guys can see the actual meat itself in the skillet. the pork that you get from Keystone. Just you can see that. Now, like I said, some people may not want the juice. Some people may want to save the broth or something else. But I like to simmer everything in its own juices because basically, like I said, this is as natural as you can get when it comes to having beef in a can without any preservatives or any of that stuff like that. Like I said, this has already been salted, so I'm not even going to add any salt because there's already sea salt inside that. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to wait this to start to see some of the kind of start to simmer a little bit, and then we're going to go ahead and add the rest of the ingredients. Now, as you can see, it's starting to kind of, you can start seeing some of that simmering in there. But I wanted to bring something to your attention because there's some great ideas if you happen to buy the pork just right on the back of the can. Barbecue sandwiches with pork, sauerkraut, pork and beans, and tacos, dips, and what else to say, and more. And like I said, you can go to their website and kind of like look at some of the different recipes that they have. Every time I order, they always send me several different recipes, and I started trying them out because I thought it was really cool. Also, they're having this huge giveaway for Preparedness Month. Throw it up on the screen real quick. If you guys should follow their Instagram, it'll kind of give you the directions there if you want to win some Keystone meats. I think that's looking good. So we're going to go ahead and add, so at this point, you would, let's say, add the chopped bacon, and then you would add the onions, and then the baked beans, and then the barbecue sauce. So being that I already had the beans, onions, and bacon already together, all I got to do is pour this stuff in. So we're going to go ahead and throw that in there. That's one can. And then we're going to go ahead and throw the other can in there. While I'm doing this, you could be preheating the oven because there's the biscuit part that's going to come after this. But you can preheat the oven to, I usually use about anywhere from 275 to 325 because once I put the biscuits in there, I want them to brown in a certain amount of time. Usually, it takes me about 10 minutes or until the biscuits are brown. So on average, about 10 minutes. You can even set it at 350. There's not an exact science. Depending on your oven, you know, you just never know. But we're going to go ahead and keep on adding our ingredients into this. That's the other can of beans. Kind of zoomed in there so that you can kind of see right here. You can see the onions right in there and those beans. There's the onions already. Pieces of bacon in there, and of course if you want more bacon, that's when you would of course cook up that bacon and whatnot. All right, so being that these beans have some sauce already to them and I don't want it to get too watery, I'm only going to be adding a half a cup versus a full cup of Sweet Baby Ray's to this. I'm going to go ahead and pour that in there. And of course I could have had this already ready for you, but I figured I'd show you each step that I'm doing. So that's kind of get at least a good cup right there. I'm going to go ahead and pour that on there as well. Make sure I get it all out there. We can use our wooden spoon here to make sure that we get it all in there. All right, that looks good. We get a little bit more out of there. All right. Now what we're going to go ahead and do is stir this whole mixture together, kind of fold it into it. And folks, I am no chef by any means, just so that you guys are aware, by any means at all. Like I said, these are just easy, quick recipes that I've been picking up from Keystone. But I want to get all this stirred in here nice and evenly as best as you can. And as you can see, it kind of has a, you know, you can see the watery texture of this. So some people may wonder why. And like I said, basically I'm going to simmer this until I boil some of that off because I want the juices and everything to kind of simmer together to kind of mix in. All right, so you can kind of see now that we're kind of gotten this nice and thickened up here. Still got some of those juices in there, but I think we're looking good. Basically, I'm looking at the consistency as I move the pork away and kind of how fast it kind of folds back in, so it's not super watery. But I want this because we're going to be sticking this in the oven to bake it up just for a little bit longer. So anyways, and I always forget to add things when I'm doing some of these cooking videos because I'm so new at it. But I cooked on high, brought it to a boil, and then I brought the temperature down to a simmer and let it simmer for about 10 to 15 minutes until I got the consistency that I was looking for. One thing I did want to mention, because some folks are going to ask, well, you're talking about Campfire pork and being Skillet. And the reason I could have done it in a Campfire out back or whatnot, but it is like 105 degrees outside. And and it's been off and on storming, so that's why I decided to cook everything inside. But using a cast iron skillet, you could use this, of course, out on the grill or on a campfire, in a stove. You can kind of have lots of options when it comes to cast iron cookware. All right, so now what we're going to do is, while the oven is heating up, I put it on 350 so that you guys know specifically what I'm doing here. 350 is going to speed up the process just a little bit. Maybe your biscuit, you know, that you're using takes different temperatures and different times, but I'm going to probably roughly put these biscuits on here and go about 10 to 12 minutes. So let me go ahead and grab some of these biscuits and kind of lay it on the top here and kind of filter around how I want to do this, because I want to make sure all the biscuits are going to fit. And of course you want to give them space because the biscuits are going to expand. But so let me go ahead and grab a bunch of these biscuits as I step away from the oven here, try to fill my hand with biscuits so I only have to do this once instead of going back and forth and back and forth. Again, this is not a professional cooking show, folks. Anyways, total is going to be 8 biscuits total. I'll make the room. It might be a little bit tighter than I thought I was going to be, but hey, it is what it is, folks. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and put the center one right here. And then what we're going to do is, now that we have that, the biscuits will expand and get that golden flavor, you know, that kind of thing. You can also put a little bit of butter on here if you'd like, because that's what I'm going to do, just to kind of give it that hue of that nice kind of golden brown look on the biscuits. All right, so let's go ahead and add some butter to the top of these biscuits here. This is just an additional step that I'm taking. You don't have to follow this step specifically. Like I said, I like to kind of manipulate some of my recipes that work for me. When you cook something enough times, you just kind of like, you know, want to add different things. Sometimes I'll add a little garlic to the butter itself, and then put the butter spread on the biscuits themselves. But there we go. I think they're all nice and buttered up. All right, now that we got our oven to 350, we're going to go ahead and take this and kind of put it in there just like that. Kind of center it right there in the oven. Looks good, and we'll set that for anywhere from 12 to 14 minutes. All right, folks, we are halfway through. Biscuits are looking nice and fluffy. That butter looks good, starting to brown. I can't wait to try this. All right, folks, so it looks timer has gone off. Oh, this looks beautiful. Let's go ahead and pull this out of here. I hope you guys can see that. We'll get a better look at it here in a second. This looks delicious. All right, folks, here's our finished product. I don't know if you can see that. The biscuits are browned very nicely. I can't wait to dig in. Let's go ahead and do a taste test of this recipe. I can't wait to read your guys' comments in regards to this. Things you might want to add, change, or whatnot to this meal. But hopefully I at least spark some ideas in regards to cooking with Keystone meats, specifically the pork in this one. But we're going to continue down the line with a lot of different other recipes. All right, so you can see I took the center one here. This is my serving. I did add a little flair to it, just a little dash of some basil and garlic on the top of that. But that's what it looks like. Now let's give this a shot and see what it tastes like, folks. You see how flaky that buttery crust is right there? Look at that. That looks delicious. All right, let's mix this in a little bit. Try this out. I'm trying to get a close-up so that you guys can kind of see the pork and how it cooked in there. And doing this one-handed is not very easy. Let me go ahead and try this out. Let me blow it. Sorry to eat on camera, folks, but that is so good. That is so good. I don't know, folks. What do you guys think? This is definitely a nice comfort food during a storm or something like that. Go into your preparedness pantry and grab some of these goods off the shelf and put a meal together for the family. I think this is awesome. Well, folks, as you saw that was a pretty easy meal by Keystone Meats. I think it tastes great. As you saw, I kind of showed you the finished product. Did a little taste test with you guys, and I really enjoyed it. And like I said, if you guys seem to like this type of video, the cooking with Gray kind of videos, I will continue to do them and work with other Keystone meats like the turkey and the ground beef and the beef itself, the pork, the chicken. I mean, there's a variety of meats that they have. Why do I choose Keystone meats? Well, when you look at the ingredients on Keystone meats, it's basically the meat and sea salt. So you can't beat that. There's not a lot of artificial ingredients and the stuff that you get with a lot of other companies out there. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, got any value to that, or if you just had fun in general, hit that thumbs up button. It's truly appreciated. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe and check out the rest of the channel. Again, I think I might separate these videos into a different playlist called the Cooking with Gray videos or something like that. So folks that just want to watch Gray cook and possibly make mistakes and burn himself like that, they can watch those videos themselves. But I'll kind of single them out and put them in their own playlist for you guys to watch as we build that out over the next couple of years. Other than that, folks, remember, you are not alone. This is Gray Man. I'm out. I'll see you guys in a rebound. God bless all you amazing people out there. And again, thank you for taking the time to watch this video.